There are paintings that depict beauty, and there are paintings that bleed power. Artemisia Gentileschi's Judith Slaying Holofernes is both. It is not just a painting. It is vengeance captured in oil and light. Two women, Judith and her maid, lean over the General Holofernes. Their faces are calm, almost serene. But their hands are merciless. Judith's blade cuts through his neck with precision, not rage. This is not chaos. This is control. And in that control lies something deeper, the birth of feminine power in art. Artemisia was a student of Caravaggio's world, the world of light and blood. But she went further than her master ever dared. Caravaggio painted sin. Artemisia painted consequence. Her Judith does not seduce. She decides. Her power is not in her beauty. It's in her will. In the silence of her expression, we see centuries of women reclaiming their story. The chiaroscuro, that violent dance of shadow and light, becomes a battlefield. And for once, the light belongs to her. To understand this painting, you must know her story. At 17, Artemisia was assaulted by a man she trusted, another painter. When she demanded justice, the trial humiliated her, not him. They tortured her to prove she told the truth. Years later, she painted Judith Slaying Holofernes. It wasn't revenge on her attacker. It was something more profound, a reclamation of her body, her art, and her truth. Judith's blade is not just cutting flesh. It's cutting silence. Artemisia was not painting fiction. At 17, she was assaulted by her tutor, a fellow painter named Agostino Tassi. When she sought justice, she was torturing court to prove she was telling the truth. Her attacker was barely punished. So she did what no court could do. She took revenge on the canvas. Every brushstroke of Judith Slaying Holofernes bleeds with defiance. It is the scream of a woman who refused to be a victim. Like Caravaggio, Artemisia mastered light and shadow, but her light is different. Caravaggio's light reveals guilt. Hers reveals strength. The glow on Judith's arm is not mercy, it's triumph. The darkness around them is not fear, it's silence after justice. This is not a man's drama. It is a woman's awakening. And for Artemisia Gentileschi, art became the only way to speak the truth the world refused to hear. Artemisia's Judith is not about murder. It's about mastery. Every movement is precise, almost ritualistic. The women are calm, focused, synchronized, like surgeons, not assassins. Blood flows, but it's not chaos. It's choreography. The composition pulls your gaze toward the blade, a silver line between life and death, power and surrender. For the first time in art, the gaze of control belongs to a woman, and it never blinks. Beside Judith stands her maidservant, Abra, strong, loyal, complicit. She is not a shadow. She is a partner. Together, they embody something almost revolutionary for the 17th century, female solidarity. In a world where women were silent, Artemisia painted them in chorus. Their strength is doubled, their fear shared, their resolve divine. This is not one woman's revenge. It's womanhood itself reclaiming power. Look at the light. It doesn't fall from heaven. It bursts from the center, as if the violence itself emits truth. It glides along the curve of Judith's arm, caresses the steel, and dies in the darkness of Holofernes' chest. This is not divine light. It is carnal. Artemisia uses illumination like touch, slow, sensual, deliberate. She paints the flesh not as temptation, but as revelation. In her art, the body is a scripture. In Judith Slaying Holofernes, time stands still. This is not before or after. It is during. The blade has entered. The deed is happening. Every brushstroke captures a second when power changes hands. The oppressor becomes the prey. The weak become divine. And in that eternal second, Artemisia rewrites the story of power itself, not as dominance, but as justice painted in blood and gold. Most artists paint what they see. Artemisia painted what she survived. Every drop of blood in Judith Slaying Holofernes is personal. The violence is not spectacle, it is memory. But she transforms trauma into creation, vengeance into vision. She takes the language of pain and translates it into power. And that is why her Judith doesn't look afraid. She looks awake. It's not rage in her eyes, it's clarity. The tension in Judith Slaying Holofernes is almost unbearable. The sensuality of skin, the rhythm of struggle, the closeness of death. It's erotic, but not for pleasure. It's the eroticism of dominance, of control over chaos. Artemisia's Judith is not an object of desire. She is desire itself, disciplined, focused, divine. And Holofernes, the general, the symbol of masculine conquest, becomes helpless under her hands. In this moment, gender, morality, and theology collapse into one truth. That power itself can be beautiful. For Artemisia, Judith was not just a subject. It was a self-portrait. She became the creator of her own justice. The girl who was silenced now commanded silence through her art. Every drop of blood in the painting is a fragment of her story. Every shadow, a memory of what she endured. But she does not paint suffering. She paints transformation. She takes her trauma and turns it into gold. Her brush becomes her sword. And in doing so, she doesn't just reclaim her power. She invents a new kind of womanhood, one that creates by cutting through lies. After the violence comes silence. But it's not emptiness, it's peace. Judith stands over the fallen man, her breath steady, her gaze clear. The act is over, but the power remains. Artemisia freezes this moment, the heartbeat between destruction and rebirth. She teaches us that justice isn't loud. It's quiet. It happens when the hand stops trembling and the soul finally exhales. For centuries, Artemisia's voice was erased. Her paintings were signed by men, her name buried in footnotes. But her light never faded. It burned quietly in every woman who dared to create. Today, Judith Slaying Holofernes is not seen as brutality, but as awakening, a declaration that art can be a weapon in beauty, a form of resistance. Artemisia didn't just paint blood. She painted freedom disguised as vengeance. In the end, Artemisia did what religion and society never could. She gave the divine a woman's face. Her God bleeds, loves, suffers, and forgives through the body of a woman. In Judith, she showed that holiness isn't obedience, it's courage. Not purity, but truth. Her art whispers to every soul that the most sacred act is not prayer, but survival. 400 years later, her Judith still looks at us, unflinching. Her gaze pierces centuries, asking one question: what would you do if your silence had power? Artemisia Gentileschi turned her pain into legend. Her painting became a mirror, not of vengeance, but of transformation. Because sometimes the most dangerous thing a woman can do is paint the truth.